G'day trendsetters, I'm John with Gravel Cyclist. This is my 1989 Specialized Rock Combo. To quote Specialized from the time, this bike is a hybrid between a mountain bike and a road bike. Charlie Cunningham may have been the first gentleman to build a drop bar type mountain bike rig with big tyre clearance, but Specialized is among the early bigger names in cycling to produce such a bike. This is one of 500 made, and I believe they sold over a 2-year period from 1989 to 1990, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do understand they weren't exactly hot sellers at the time. Because only 500 were manufactured, they're quite rare. If you're a regular visitor to the Gravel Cyclist YouTube channel or gravelcyclist.com website, you'll already have seen my video where I show this bike not long after I collected it. It wasn't built to its correct spec and so on. Because I'm a little bit type A with my bike builds, the spec bothered me, so I wanted to rebuild it as close as possible to the spec from 1989. Now before I get into the part specs, let's talk about the frame and fork. The Rock Combo was designed with steep angles and super quick handling, which sounds like a cyclocross bike, but clearly that's not the case. Only 3 sizes were made at the time, and they were measured in the classic mountain bike style of measurement, meaning center to top in inches on the seat post. 17 inches, 19.5 inches, and 22 inches. This is a 17-inch example, and it measures approximately 22.5 inches on the top tube. That's assuming a virtual top tube, which equates to about a 58 centimeter top tube. So it's quite long and low. Wheelbase on the 19.5-inch example measured 106.3 millimeters, just over a meter. Unfortunately, I don't have the 100% specs on this particular size. The main frame is constructed from triple butted steel chromoly tubing, whilst the chainstay and seat stays and fork are built with regular steel chromoly tubing. There are derailleur and brake cable stops, 2 mounts for water bottle cages, and fender and rack mounts, which some manufacturers make a big deal about in 2021, but this was the norm on this bike in 1989 and for years before. Fender mounts, not exactly groundbreaking or new. On to the specs, and starting at the front end, you have a Specialized SV-2 threaded headset. A lot of the folks watching this video will be very familiar with that sort of technology. I suspect this headset is possibly a rebadged model by Suntour. The handlebars, well, they're flared, and considering this is 1989, these might have been groundbreaking, I really don't know, but they are marked as being manufactured by Specialized, the BB-1 model, but I do know for a fact they were manufactured by Nitto of Japan. They measure 44 centimeters outside to outside at the brake hoods and 55 centimeters outside to outside at the drops. The original stem was a Specialized MTB-3 riser model, and I believe the size for this frame measured 90 millimeters. And in fact, hold on one second, I might have the original stem to show you. Here we are, a flat bar setup. Now I understand these bikes had the option of being dealer installed with a flat bar unit, and the shifters and the brake levers are Suntour units, namely the XCM, and you can see the stem. So at some point I may substitute this stem for what's on there now. The current stem, it's a 90 millimeter stem, -17 quill. So this would rise it up a little bit and potentially make the drop not as crazy. With that said, I don't mind an aggressive drop, and it harkens back to the days when I used to race road with a very aggressive drop, although I had a crash many years ago and knackered 2 vertebrae in my neck, so I had to change things after that. Moving on, the brake levers are another Suntour affair, namely the GPX Aero model. And when I say Aero, this harkens back to the time when a lot of the brake levers back in 1988, 89, etc. ran their brake cables out of the top of the brake lever. That was how they pulled back then. So the change in design to Aero, you have no cable showing, which was quite significant at that particular time. With that said, these brake levers are very comfortable. When I started riding way back in 1991, mostly riding Mavic components, and I find these brake levers to be far more comfortable than the Mavic units or the Shimano Dura-Ace units. Shifting is courtesy of the Suntour Barcon Index bar end shifters. they shift really, really nicely. And remember, this is from a time before there was any electronic shifting, any integrated brake shift lever. So it was pretty convenient just to move your hand down and activate this shifter, which, as I mentioned, is index. There are clicks and there are 7 gears in total. Index shifting was a big deal when it was first released by Shimano, if I'm correct. I always found friction shifting to be somewhat annoying, but you still have friction shifting for the front derailleur on the left side of the bike. These shifters are paired to Suntour XCD 6000 front and rear derailleurs, and the original cassette, I said cassette, it was not a freewheel, which was again pretty advanced stuff for 1989. It was originally spec'd with a 13:28 ratio. I've got a 13:30 ratio, so a little bit lower on the rear end of the bike, which could come in handy for climbing. The crankset is by Specialized and it's a triple, not a one by. Oh my God, amazing. The crank arms are 170 millimeters in length and the chainring ratios are 48, 38 and 28. So that means I've got a less than 1-to-1 gear with my little setup, but again, the stock setup, you would have had a 1-to-1 ratio. So not exactly crazy low, but remember, this bike was built as a hybrid between road and mountain bike. The bottom bracket is the Specialized CV-2 unit and it's English thread. This was from a time when you had only a couple of threading standards for frames. The two biggest ones were English 68mm and Italian 70mm, and the cranks mounted using a square taper axle, which is by Shimano, and it's a hollow chromoly steel axle. Original pedals were SRMTB-125s, equipped with specialized straps and cages. Remember, so no clipless pedals, toe straps, so much fun, not really. But I've modernized the bike. I'm running Shimano XTR 9100 series clipless pedals with the short axle option to try and bring my Q factor in just a smidge, considering I'm running a triple crankset. The wheel set is a true hand-built special. 32 Wheelsmith stainless steel spokes laced in a 3-cross pattern front and rear, and those are brass nipples, and these are the original spokes. Wheel set's nice and true and pretty bomb-proof. The rims are anodized Specialized GX23s in the 26-inch size. The original tyres are long gone. They were Specialized Hardpack in 26 by 1.5s, so I improvised. I have a set of the very rare Panaracer Gravel King SK in 26 by 2-inch in beautiful brown sidewall, and I have converted these wheels to tubeless. There are 2 layers of tape on the front, 3 layers of tape on the back, and I'm using the awesome Orange Seal Versa valves with my favorite sealant, Orange Seal Endurance Formula, and they've been holding air beautifully for weeks. Older wheels can be converted to tubeless quite easy, and if you run low pressure like in this situation, you don't have to worry too much about rolling tyres off the rim. There are no through axles. They weren't invented back in 1989. They're a recent invention. These are regular 9mm quick releases and they are by Suntour. On to brakes. These are the original Dicomp 984 cantilever brakes. Some people might think, holy crap, cantilever brakes suck. Well, no, they don't. They're strong, they're powerful, and if you have the pads aligned or towed in, as I like to say, they are very powerful. Granted, they're not on the same level of all-weather performance as modern disc brakes, but they're pretty handy. And the big advantage with these sorts of brakes, you don't have to worry about road to rub or caliper alignment when you swap out the wheels. The original seat post on this bike was by Strong and it is of aluminium construction. I have the seat post and the original turbo saddle. Unfortunately, the head on that seat post is pretty jammed up, and also the original saddle is pretty knackered. So I've replaced it. That seat post measures 26.4mm, which is a difficult size to find if you don't want a piece of crap seat post. I also needed a seat post that measured about 1 inch longer. Remember, this bike was only made in 3 sizes, so beggars can't be choosers sometimes, but I made it work with the fit. I replaced the original seat post with one by Sakai of Japan, 26.4 by 350, and a new old stock Sella Italia turbo saddle in white, which matches the handlebar tape beautifully. I love running white handlebar tape, and if you have the right tape, physique in this case, it never shows dirt. The seat post is held in place by the original specialised quick release binder. I need to give some kudos to one of my professional bicycle mechanic mates, James of Bikes and More in Gainesville, Florida, which incidentally is where I found this bike hanging out in the store. I don't have a lot of time to wrench these days, and James has worked tirelessly with me, helping me to rebuild the bike to the spec as you currently see. James, thanks a lot, mate. I really appreciate your help and professional service. If you're in Gainesville, Florida, be sure to check out Bikes and More. So you might be wondering what's next. Well, here's some video of me riding the Rock Combo during its maiden voyage, its shakedown ride if you will, and naturally I took this bike onto some gravelly roads less travelled. It's Rock Combo time, let's do it. Listen to how quiet the 3x7 drivetrain is. A wee bit of dodgy weather for the official maiden voyage. The position on the original Specialized BB1 drops is quite deep. I'm quite stretched out. These 26" by 2.0 Gravel Kings just bulldoze everything. Looks like we have a little bit of rain falling during the maiden ride. It's coming down pretty good now. It's a good thing I'm already soaked from perspiration. One observation, these Panorama Gravel King tyres in 26 by 2.0 at low pressure make this bike ride so comfortably. It's obviously helped by its steel frame and fork, but it crushes gravel and also mows over corrugations and washboards, sands any suspension. No worries. In future, I'll be riding this bike during many of my crazy and fun exploration rides where I visit small towns in the USA and beyond, and the gravelly roads less travelled in between. And I think it might be fitting to take this bike to some events and see how it goes. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the Gravel Cyclist YouTube channel for interesting content such as this. No bullshit gravel bike reviews, product reviews, ride experience videos and other madness, as all of it is released to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.